Good day everyone, this is Mohammed Nasim Firdaus Shajib and I am telling you this. If you listen the slide, this narration carefully, it will help you to understand conditionals. Yes, we have this title, Conditions in Conditionals, for today's topic, and we will be looking and pointing on conditionals from grammatical perspective, and the sources I used for references in the slide narrations are New Headway 3rd edition intermediate students book and another grammar book, and that is Oxford Practice Grammar. And I also would like to recommend all of you to have both of these books alongside listening this particular narration, and I believe it will be very helpful for you to understand what is afterwards. So let's start. Let's see what are our contents for this particular slide narration. Okay, we have objectives as usual, and of course there will be introduction, and we will have conditions in conditional sentences. We'll be looking at the rules and regulations from grammatical perspectives, and lots of ideas there. And conditional sentences in real life context, yes, we will be looking at it too. And of course we'll have the conclusion, and because I will be referring some practices as at the end, that will be our conclusion. Okay, let's start with our objectives. So what are we going to learn, or in another phrase, if you go through this slide, what will you gain? These are our objectives: develop basic knowledge about conditional sentence, achieve the capability of developing different forms of sentences through conditionals, and you will be able to apply conditionals in real life context. Yes, if you develop this basic knowledge about conditional sentences, if you just go through this slide narration, you will have the basic knowledge of conditional sentences, and definitely you will able to create conditional sentences and apply them in real life context in different forms, and you will be able to use conditional sentence for different functions as well. And language is not for the books, not for the study, but also for real life context. You need to apply conditionals in real life context. So definitely if you go through this carefully, you will be able to apply conditionals in real life. Okay, now let's start with our introduction. Yeah, before going to have this introduction, I want you to fantasize with this particular question, because the question itself will fantasize you. What would you do if you own a lottery of 1 crore taka? Okay, I know in one sense 1 crore taka is not much in some senses, but definitely for us, maybe most of you would have a great feeling to have 1 crore taka. So what would you do? So in this point you can pause it, and you can get some ideas, can write it down and post it in the forum. That would be nice. So where is our introduction? Whenever we are talking about conditional sentences or conditional tenses, we are talking about the possibilities, the probabilities, what could happen and what might happen. We are talking about some context which is unreal, and of course we also want to talk about our wish that would happen. So we are talking about some imaginary situations in conditionals. Definitely there are two sections. So there are lots of conditions before that in order to make this happen. or we are talking about some situations which is yet to uh, uh, um, uh, yet to happen, or it didn't happen. That what we could say. But you can use conditionals in different contexts, and those contexts could be habits, tendencies, rules, scientific facts, that means in general truth. You can use conditional sentences, probable future, predictions, promises, threats and offers, and fantasy, improbable future, hypotheses and negotiations, and of course regrets, comments about past situations. So maybe you did something in your past life and still you are regretting, or you're happy that you did that in the past, so still you are bearing the consequences in present. You did it in the past, and are you are bearing the consequences of that incident, so that situation, and could be expressed through conditions. So you can see conditions can make you more expressive. You can use more expression if you are capable of applying conditions or generating conditional sentences as in your written text or even in your spoken text as well. Okay, so we are talking about the conditions. Yes, definitely. As a grammatical item in conditional sentences, you will have lots of conditions. There are lots of rules and regulations you will find. So, though, first of all, the conditions we are using, that those could be real possibilities, and of course those could be unreal situations. For example, if you work hard you will score a good result, and it is very much possible. Believe me, I don't know, maybe some of you might not agree with me, but I do believe that if you work hard you will score a good result. It is very possible. There is a real chance to make this happen. So I would like all of you to work hard for the good result, because it will open lots of doors for you, lots of opportunities for you. So please do that. And the unreal situation is that if I were a president, I would make education free for all. As far as I know, the situation is pretty much unreal for me. I don't know about you, but pretty much unreal for me. But I would like to add some point uh, in this particular situation, and that is, uh, we have to understand the context as well. In order to make it an unreal situation, we also need to understand to whom we are talking to. For example, if you consider my situation, it is pretty much unreal, but maybe for some political person it is quite possible. In that case we will not consider it as unreal situation, rather than we will post it under real possibilities, and that is the time the structure will be changed as well. Yes, that's why I wanted to show you these things. Okay, and in conditional sentences there are two clauses, and this is pretty basic. First one is if clause, and next one is main clause. We also replace if clause as condition clause, because there is a condition in there, and we replace main clause as result clause, because there is after effect of that particular condition. So there is a correlation between if clause and main clause. There is a uh, very strong relation and between them, that means between these clauses. So you need to understand that these clauses, they are very close. In order to make this happen, you have to do this. So there are conditions, and so conditions and results. So we can we hear the sentences in Bangla languages very often. For example, your father might say, if you score 3.5 in your honors program, I will gift you a what should I say, a bike, a motorcycle, maybe an iPhone. So we hear this in our regular life. So I should tell you that conditional sentences are real, and use them in your daily lives. That's how simple and real it is. Okay, conditions in conditional sentences, we will have these types. Type 1, that is zero conditional. So zero conditional talks about the general truths. So they are very basic. For example, if you hit ice, it melts. And then first conditional, a possible condition and its probable result. So we are saying that that is pretty much basic. And we have this example: if you don't hurry, you will miss the train. So that is pretty simple and pretty genuine. And then second conditional is a hypothetical condition and its probable result. If I were you, I would not leave tonight. So that means it is pretty unreal, a hypothetical condition. I am not you and you are not me. So that is pretty hypothetical, and so the result is probable as well. And the third conditional, an unreal past condition and its probable result in the past. So the incident or the event happened before, and the effect also happened. So now you can't do anything about it, but you are imagining the situation, and the possible result you could get in the past. So everything happened before. So if I had listened, so that means I did not listen, and I would have not gotten lost. So that means I was lost in the time. And of course, there is a presence of another type of conditions that is mixed. You might not find it in in in, in grammar books or in sources, but I should tell you there is a presence of mixed conditions, and those conditions are the unreal past condition and its probable result in the present. I talked about in the previous slides that something happened in the past, and still you are bearing the consequences. For example, if I had worked harder at school, I would have a better job now. So I am carrying the consequences which happened before. So I did not work hard in school, so that's why I do not have a better job. So still I am bearing the consequences. So this is mixed conditional sentences. So these are the types. So let's see with our next section. Okay, so these are some basic tips and small things which you should remember while you are working with conditional sentences. First, commas appear after dependent clause. So after dependent clause, that means after if clause. So if it is the before one, then no comma is necessary. That is what is written in here. No comma is necessary if the dependent clause is after the independent clause. So if clause is the dependent clause and the other one is independent one. So for example, you can see this particular sentence. It says no comma is necessary. You can see there is no comma in here. So if the dependent clause is after the independent clause, so that's it. And then without if, we know that most of the sentences we can try to use through if, but without if we have when, we have provided that, we have given that, we can use in case, considering, and lots of the other conjunctions and the phrases to replace if. Clauses in conditional sentences can be swapped without distorting the meaning. Yes, you can swap it. Just put a comma in there, and that will give you the exact meaning. For example, no comma is necessary if the dependent clause is after the independent clause. So you can rephrase it, restructure it like, if the dependent clause is after the independent clause, comma, no comma is necessary. Okay, so that's how you can swap. Imaginary situations, proposals, and wishes can be expressed through conditional sentences. We are talking about lots of functions in there, but these three are the very basic functions of conditional sentences. So you can say imaginary situations, you can say proposals, you can say wishes. Okay, now let's see how far you have understood in this point. Okay, so here we have one conversation. So definitely the gaps will be fulfilled by conditionals maybe and related words and phrases. So in this point, if you did not understand, then I would like to go back and start again and keep focusing on those points, then come back, because I have a task for you to do. Jaman and Anika are tired of English weather, so they are moving to Spain to live in the sun and grow lemons. Their friend Dewan thinks they are crazy. Read and complete the conversation. So here is the conversation. So in another sense, I will I'll tell the first sense. First, let me tell you the another sense. In another sense, you can have idea about developing a dialogue or conversation. You can do that. So whenever you find something to learn, please take it. Okay, now the first one is that you need to understand the context. The context is Jaman and Anika are tired of English weather. So that means they are in England. So, and in England you are talking about English weather. So they are tired. That means they want to move. So they are moving to Spain to live in the sun and grow lemons. So that means English weather is very different to Spanish weather, and so they are moving. And their friend Dewan thinks they're crazy. Whenever we are using this word crazy, that means Dewan thinks that it is not correct, it is not right, they should not go, they should not move. So what is the conversation? So in any context, you need to understand and the smallest things, because that will reflect the meaning. The one you are both mad, I think you dash it. You were earning good money here. You kept much growing lemons. Jaman, we know that, but we kept a lot of money to live there. The one, but what dash? If you can find anywhere to live. Anika, there are lots of cheap old farms. We kept no trouble finding somewhere. The one, but you don't even like gardening. What kept if you kept farming either? Jaman, we kept if we kept farming when we tried. Well, okay, but what if you? So this is not a gap. This is just as keep saying that this conversation is maybe going on and on. So we have just took a glimpse of this conversation. So give it a pause, write down the answers, and match it with me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So here is one. I think you will regret it. So because you are both mad, I think you will regret it. You were earning good money here. You won't earn much growing lemons. So so you can see in something in there. You were earning good money here. You won't earn much growing lemons. Jaman, we know that, but we won't need a lot of money to live there. Dewan, but what will you do if you can't find anywhere to live? So what will you do if you can find anywhere to live? So you can see that plain conditions in there. What will you do if you can find? So if clause and condition clause. So you can see the use of comma in here as well. There are lots of cheap old farms. We will have no trouble finding somewhere. But you don't even like gardening. What will you do if you don't like farming either? So there is another condition. What will you do if you don't like farming either? Jaman, we will only know if we don't like farming when we try it. We'll only know if we don't like. So you can see all of the sentences use conditional clauses in the later part started with the result clause or the asking question. So we will only know if we don't like farming when we try it. Well, okay, but what if you? So there is another what if you. So that means as another conditions in there. So you can carry on with this conversation. Maybe 3 of you can make a group and continue to do so. So now if you look closely, you can see that all those rules and regulations can be easily synchronized with this particular conversation. So all the rules, they can be applied in the sphere. Will you too if you don't like? So the conditions you can find. So this is the chapter I was talking to, and you can see the conversation in here which I took for the practice. And of course you can do the other practices as well, like as matchings. So what we do, so you will have lots of if clauses and result clauses there, that means condition clauses and result clauses there. So there will be lots of practices in there, so you can carry on with those practices. And here is the text which I have taken for you to show the conditionals in context. So in context you can use conditionals. So that is one of the contexts. We started almost started with a question, and that is, who wants to be a millionaire, in different question pattern, and that is, what would you do if you own on 1 crore taka. So so that is another one. So the same question is like that. So here is a story about this particular topic, relating to this particular topic. So all over the world there are people who get rich quick, become multimillionaires overnight. But what is it actually like to have more money than you can imagine? So yeah, I think many of you have already started to think about getting rich, getting multimillionaires. So maybe 21st February, 22nd February, you had nothing, but in 23rd February you won a lottery, or maybe some friends or some relatives donated lots of money, and you became a millionaire overnight. So what did you do? So it is a very good topic to imagine. It is a very good topic to fantasize. So let's see this. Let's read this story. Nearly all of us have fantasized about suddenly becoming very rich. We dream about what we do with the money, but we rarely stop to think about what the money would do to us. So you can find that the conditional sentences are there. What will you do with the money, and what the money would do to us? For most of us, our way of life is closely linked to our economic circumstances. Yes, economic barriers. So lots of economic barriers are there. So whatever you are trying to do, you can find economic barriers. The different parts of our lives fit together like a jigsaw. Work, home, friends, hobbies, and sports make up a world. Yes, that's pretty simple for all of us. We do work, we go to home, we gossip, and we gossip with our friends, maybe relatives, and we have our hobbies maybe have a smartphone, Facebooking, listening songs and other things, and of course the sports, and that make up our world. And this is why we belong and why we feel at home. Yes, so these types of situations we feel like at home. A sudden huge windfall would dramatically change it or smash the jigsaw. So we are referring that this becoming a millionaire is a sudden huge windfall, and it would dramatically change it and smash the jigsaw of work, home, friends, hobbies, and sports. This jigsaw would break it down. The jigsaw would be breaking if you had lots of money overnight. So what could be the change if this jigsaw breaks down? For example, most people like the idea of not having to work any longer, but new millennials find that without work there is no purpose to their days and no reason to get up in the morning. I could easily resemble with my life. Yes, I have the same idea, not having to work any longer, just to go to bed without any tension for the tomorrow. So I would love that idea. So I am pretty much a regular guy, I should tell you. Another tempting idea is immediately to move to a bigger house in a wealthy neighborhood, and nearly all new millennials do this. But in so doing, they leave behind old friends and routines. So every sequences have consequences. Every actions have reactions. So every action has reaction. That means every sequence has consequences. That means, so whenever you will have lots of money, you will do these things, and by doing these things, you will break your routine and life, your friends, as you will be no longer friends with your old one. Maybe you could have, but if you have moved to these houses, to this wealthy neighborhood, then it could be different. The very rich often choose not to publicize their addresses and phone numbers, but still many charity requests and begging letters arrive. If they are not careful, much of their money will be spent on lawyers' fees to protect them from demanding friends and relatives, girls to protect their homes, and psychiatrists to protect their sanity. So you need to look at the conditional sentence if they are not careful. So as the if clause is in the beginning, so that means dependent clause, independent clause is there, so that means there will be a comma in between there. Much of the, so next one is another clause, that is rather clause. Much of their money will be spent on lawyers fees to protect them. So that will be now the story tells you that if you are not careful, if you are not very conscious about those money, then a lot of the things can happen. Okay, so some unhappy endings. So we have some stories which did not end well, who became millionaire overnight. There are many stories about people who don't know how to be rich. In 2001, Jasmine Wilson, age 24, from Liverpool, inherited £7 million. Yes, pound, £7 million from a rich aunt. £7 million is huge. It brought her nothing but unhappiness. She immediately went on a spending spree, houses, holidays, and husbands. But 7 years and 5 months later, she is penniless and alone. So you might think that lots of money make you happy, but this might not. This might not. That did not happen for Wilson, at least. We know that now. She had 5 marriages. She spent 7 years with those houses, holidays, and now she is without any money and without without none. So it is so miserable, she says. Inheriting all that money was the worst thing that ever. Then there is the story that ever. Okay, there should be a full stop in here. Then there is the story of William Pascoe, is in 37, a cook from Brighton. His book Quick Fix Recipes sold millions. William earned millions and went on radio and TV to talk about it and demonstrate his recipes. He became rich and famous. Friends, family, and even strangers wrote him begging letters. Newspapers wrote lies about his private life. Finally, William ran away to the south of France. Just 1 year later, he was dead. He had a fatal accident while trying to escape from reporters in his Neo 1 million speedboat. Okay, I think this is the saddest story to share, but it is true. It is true that that happened to William. He died. Okay, so yes, so you have happy endings as well. For some people, the best thing to do with a lots of money is to give it away. Tom Baxter, a London fireman, was given £1.5 million by a grateful lady, Cameron Scott Evans, whose cat he had saved from the roof of her Kensington home. Kingston home, that should be Kingston home. In just 50 days, he gave it all away, first to fellow firefighters, then to tramps and strangers in the street. On the occasion, he handed £100,000 to homeless people in a London park. He gave the last of the money to a cat's home. It seemed only fair, said Tom. I have no regrets. I'm happy being a fireman. I want nothing more in life. Okay, so I know so many of you have this intention in your mind that you will be donating most of your money to relatives, friends, and to the homeless, to the poor, and some people find it a good way to spend their money and become happy. So this is a happy ending for Tom. And a final thought: when you next dream of being rich, just stop for a minute and ask yourself why you are doing it. Would you actually want to change your whole way of life? Is it not better just to have the excitement of the dream rather than the reality of millions of pounds? So yes, that is a very um, thoughtful question. You can have lots of ideas, lots of thoughts encountering this question. So you can think again, and whether you want those lot of money in your life, or you just want to dream of having and such amount of money in your life. So whether it can and change your life in a positive way or not. So you can give a final thought whether you want to be a millionaire or not. But that is definitely you feel you can do that. But now I would like to recommend you to go back and find out the conditional sentences in there and categorize it from 0 to third condition, 0 first, second, third, and see whether they matches with the conditions or not. Okay, if you want to have more practice, I would like to go to suggest you to go for textbook 2. That means Oxford Practice Grammar. See, you can have lots of individual question exercises in there, lots of sentences in there. Of course, individual sentences. There are few conversations you will find, but for contextual exercises, that is pretty similar what I said before. That is, you should go with the New Headway book. Again, in this chapter, that means chapter 8, imagine, you can find lots of conversations, lots of texts there to use your knowledge about conditional. So you can do that. So I think you have questions, so please do that. And I actually wanted you to go through with the stories, with the context, rather than individual sentences. That's why I didn't show you the structures. The structures are pretty simple, so everything goes with two clauses, and that is conditional clauses, and that is if clause or conditional clauses, and the result clause. So all of the structures are pretty much same, whether it is first or second or mixed or zero conditional. So you can find the similar structure in there, but of course there are differences in if clause and result clause in there. So there should be a clause, yes, and there are differences in there. So if you want to have this if clause, you can find that in zero conditionals both of them are in the same chance, present and present, past or past. So there are some truths in there, so you can find the structures in there. But I would like to recommend you to go with the plain sentences and conditions. And of course, don't forget to notice the conversation structures as well, so it will help you to understand how the conversation carries. And you can find some differences in the text. The text I have just read, it is pretty much different with the text you have in your textbook, New Headway. So you can develop your own story as well. So thank you very much. I hope you have got lots of ideas and you could have practiced well. So if you have questions and everything, so you know what to put there. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you.